been more than a week since the UFC 276 pay-per-view, but everyone's still talking about it. There were a number of memorable moments, from the retirement of cowboy Sean O'Malley having a no contest, Alexander Volkanovski's dominant performance, and of course, the Alex Pereira left hook that put Sean Strickland's lights out. Today, we'll be looking at what the champ said about his performance at UFC 276 and his fellow colleagues. First off, Izzy talks about Sean Strickland getting KO'd. On his YouTube channel Freestyle Bender, Adesanya made a video that was about half an hour long, in which he discussed the news from UFC 276. When he was asked about Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira, he said that Sean should have listened to him. Of course, he was referring to the back and forth the two had at the pre-fight press conference, in which a lot was said even though they weren't even fighting. Izzy told Strickland to focus on the guy in front of him and not to look past him. The champ said that he hated having to address Strickland at the press conference. According to him, Sean is like the idiot sitting at the back of the class making noise and trying to get everyone's attention. Izzy said that he just wanted to get his work done, focus on the guy he was facing, but instead he had to pay attention to some other guy. Speaking about the fight itself, Adesanya thought that if Strickland had done what he was supposed to do, he could have been fighting for the title. Instead, he fought with his ego, which ended up costing him the opportunity. Before the fight, Strickland was pretty vocal about how he could stand and trade with anyone in the world, even though most people thought his best path to victory was through wrestling. Well, hindsight's always 20/20, isn't it? Next up, Izzy talks about who's next. Of course, the big question everyone had on their minds was if Alex Pereira had done enough to get that title shot next. Adesanya was quick to say yes to that. He said that's the fight he wants next. When he was asked about his preferred timeline, the champ said that he's already got a date. They've sussed out the details and they're planning for the fight already. When asked about Pereira's fights in the UFC, Izzy said that he had 6 fights before getting the title shot. He was also pretty active, fighting 5 times in 14 months. Even back then, a few people thought it was too soon for him to get the shot. When speaking of Pereira, Izzy said that his fights were tailor-made for him. He got the matchups that would favor him and get him quickly up the rankings. If you're wondering why the UFC is making such a big push for Pereira to fight for the title against Adesanya, it's because the two of them have fought twice before, with Pereira winning both times. In their second fight, Pereira ended up knocking Izzy out cold with a left hook. The best part is that he finished Sean Strickland with the same left hook, so now we know why Sean wanted Izzy to tell him what not to do. The champ said it'd be pretty sweet to get that win against Pereira, but that doesn't mean he wants to chase that fight. Izzy seems to have a pretty healthy mindset where he just doesn't care about what happened the last time they fought. He said the worst thing that could happen to a fighter happened to him, but he's okay with it, which is why he is where he is. This is probably the biggest fight possible in the middleweight division. Let's just hope nothing stops that from happening. Next up, what did he think of his own performance? Stylebender was aware that his fight wasn't one of the most action-packed bouts on the card. The fans were booing, some of them even left the arena. There was a ton of backlash by MMA media, and fans went crazy on Twitter, calling Adesanya out for playing it safe and point fighting to a unanimous decision. Izzy said in the post-fight press conference that he had an off night, but he still managed to take out a dangerous opponent. In the YouTube interview, he said that he watched the fight 2 days after the event was over, and it made him realize that the fight wasn't as bad as people describe it to be. He recalled a few fun conversations he had with Jared during the fight. In the third round, which could arguably be the only round Izzy lost, Jared held him against the fence with both underhooks and made comments about Izzy hating wrestling, to which the champ said, "Take me down then. Don't want to get into the battle of words with this man anywhere." Izzy was also asked about what he thought was the reason behind him being able to shut Jared's offense down. The champ thought that his footwork eliminated about 60% of Cannonier's offense. Stylebender is one of the best of all time, and distance management, feints, and hand control. He knew those skills would come in handy against a guy like this. He also thought that he was better at the basic stuff. The jab and leg kicks were the strikes he threw most often. Speaking of things he could have done better, Adesanya thought that he could have been less labored with his rare hand. The champ was very active with the jab, but the power shots weren't very effective, as he was trying to set them up and headhunt a little too much. He also gave credit to Jared's corner for making the adjustments in between rounds. And now, what did he say about Chris Pratt? Chris Pratt wasn't a big fan of Adesanya's performance, which led to Izzy firing shots at the actor for making comments about something he can't do. Pratt later apologized and the matter was cleared. In the interview, Izzy mentioned that another actor criticized him for his character after the Paulo Costa fight. He said that those people play tough guys on the screen, whereas he does all that in real life, so it doesn't matter what they all say. The champ said it's okay to criticize him and his performance, but he had to respond to this one as everything was said on a public platform, so he's got a right to stand up for himself. Now in other related news. First off, Jake Paul and Conor McGregor are back at it. The problem child is making a comeback late summer. He was supposed to fight Tommy Fury, but due to the visa issues of the British boxer, he had to pull out of the bout. As a replacement, Paul agreed to take on former sparring partner Harsem Rahman Jr., who has a professional record of 9-1. This certainly would be Jake's toughest test yet, as he strives to prove that he's a real boxer. In an interview with the MMA hour, he said that he'll be trying to get the Conor McGregor fight soon. Conor tagged Paul, saying that his last fight only sold 70K buys and that he was a flop. To be fair to Jake, it was the rematch with Tyron Woodley who was a late replacement. The only reason why he accepted was to save the card. Hopefully when and if we see these two face-offs, it will do really big numbers. Next up, Kamaru Usman talks about going to light heavyweight. It's pretty common for a dominant champion to move up a weight class. Getting that champ status is a big deal. What we haven't seen before is a guy wanting to skip a weight class and take the belt from the division above that. Let's just say the pound-for-pound king doesn't put any limits on himself. The welterweight champ has made it clear that he has no interest in fighting Israel Adesanya, as they're both friends and from Nigeria. He did, however, mention that he's willing to go to light heavyweight instead and become the champion over there. He said he thought about middleweight when Adesanya fought Jan for the second belt. Had the middleweight title been vacated, he would have put his name in the hat. For now, this plan seems crazy and almost impossible to achieve, but if there's anyone who can get it done, it's the Nigerian Nightmare. And finally, DC speaks the truth about the towel incident. Y'all remember the towel incident at Houston, right? The former light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier couldn't make weight for the first fight against Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. Cormier was at 206.2 pounds with only an hour or so left to make weight. And then the miracle happened. With only a few minutes left on the clock, Daniel Cormier showed up and made weight at 205. After it was done, many people pointed out that Cormier was putting his weight on the towel to make the scale look lighter, which is technically cheating. This incident is one of the only criticisms the former double champ has had in his Hall of Fame career. DC has always been a class act and gets the respect of all the fans for his character. It was at the 2022 Hall of Fame ceremony when he finally accepted that he did indeed use the towel to make weight. We have to say, that must have felt like a weight's been lifted off of him. That's a wrap for this video. What did you think of Sean Strickland's approach in the fight? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.